I'll put it up, and if you want to click it on whenever you come up here.
It's okay. It's going to go pretty smoothly, I think. Do you have an extra pen on you?
You can use
I'll
this
sit
one.
here revising. I just need it for a second. Thanks.
Hello.
Thanks.
Yep. You want me to leave it up there?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the June 6th meeting of the Skokie Plan Commission. First order of business is to take attendance. Top of the roll, Commissioner Michelle. Here. Commissioner Scott Burman. Here. Commissioner Franklin absent. Taylor absent. Commissioner Foster here. Commissioner Giordano. Yes. Commissioner Pepperman is gone. Commissioner King is absent. Planning Commission. So we do have a quorum, 5 members present. Okay, first order of business is to ratify the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion? So moved. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. First case tonight is a report from the housing subcommittee. This is the comprehensive plan chapter amendment to housing. Bill Maschuk.
That's me.
Thank you. We'll be here to present the report. I believe this is the report, right? And I guess we need to vote on this tonight to ratify it, to present it to the board. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, Chairman Luke. I'm Joe Mashik, as mentioned, village resident, member of the Housing Subcommittee, and a member of the Appearance Commission. I'm here tonight representing the Housing Subcommittee to recommend. Is this everything working? Okay, good. I'm working off of a script, so I'm going to likely get tripped up because I'm usually off the cuff. I'm here tonight representing the Housing Subcommittee to recommend that the Plan Commission provide a positive recommendation to the Village Board of the draft of the housing chapter of the Comprehensive Plan. The Village Board established the Housing Subcommittee of the Plan Commission to study, review, and provide recommendations regarding the housing chapter of the Comprehensive Plan. The committee was comprised of members of from various commissions and committees, as well as community members. The members of the subcommittee were appointed by the Village Board in August of 2023. Throughout the process of creating the draft, the Housing Subcommittee held 7 meetings beginning in October 2023 through May of 2024 to review the existing comp plan, brainstorm relevant themes, and to begin to revise the housing chapter. Village staff prepared and provided updated demographics information to help analyze populations trends in the village. We then proposed 4 themes to create an outline for the chapter: flexibility, character, reasonable standards, and protect and conserve. We then held 2 community engagement events that were organized to review relevant themes and topics and to receive valuable public input to be addressed in the revised housing chapter. A survey was created and distributed online and in person at several locations throughout the village to supplement the information gained from the community engagement meetings. The survey served to inquire about the public's opinion on new themes proposed by the subcommittee and the most relevant issues surrounding housing in Skokie. After reviewing the community input, we worked through several revisions and arrived at the revised 4 key themes to reflect the public input that we received. Number 1, community enhancement. Foster new developments that create public spaces that support a greater sense of community in Skokie's neighborhoods, that encourage walkability, pedestrian-oriented development, and sustainable practices. Promote accessibility by guiding residential developments to include dynamic pedestrian environments, bicycle access, and safe intermodal connections. Housing type flexibility. Provide a flexible housing policy that allows for a greater mix of housing development that is more accessible, attainable for a broader range of incomes, and encourages sustainable practices. Promote a variety of housing types and sizes within the village to meet the housing demand of growing and evolving population demographics. Number 3, reasonable standards. Provide housing policy that allows for a range of housing development that caters to the current needs of families in the village. Consider the needs of current residents and promote policy that protects and assists longtime residents and homeowners. Reinvent and retain is number 4. Encourage the development and redevelopment of a variety of housing types through housing policy and development activities. Support adaptive reuse and modification of existing housing stock. With the work done over a period of 8 months, along with public input from the meetings and the survey, the Housing Subcommittee finalized the themes and created a final version of the housing chapter for the Plan Commission to provide a positive recommendation of the draft to the Village Board. The Housing Subcommittee is confident that the redrafting of the housing chapter encompasses the interests of Skokie residents and also addresses the need for adaptable, attainable, and a wide range of housing types. Skokie is committed to accommodating the village's ever-evolving population with an eye towards the future of housing by staying true to our commitments from the past and understanding the needs of the residents to ensure that a viable community is retained into the future, which we aim to accomplish with the redraft of the housing chapter of the comprehensive plan. With that, I'd like to thank Jose and Justin and Johanna and all of her team and everyone else that really provided a lot of input into the revisions. Thanks.
Any questions of,
To my understanding, that the housing subcommittee was created because we are looking into affordable housing. And I don't see anything also about affordable housing in Skokie in this housing chapter.
Well, this is a revision to the comprehensive plan, which is, I think it's chapter 6. And we do provide language in the chapter regarding affordable housing and, creating and enhancing. A comprehensive plan is really more of a guiding policy, a guiding document. It's not an ordinance. It's not something that actually provides teeth. It actually provides direction, more like a roadmap.
it's not designed to provide legal teeth to facilitate housing or longer term development as proposed. It's going to be decided by separate ordinance, belong to the legal. This is just, like as Bill said, guide map to comprehensive plan.
I think last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, yeah.
So the item to review the chapter is for the village's comprehensive plan. So we're supposed to, speak to all housing throughout the village and not any specific type, single family, multifamily, or, any kind of affordability level, market rate or affordable. So it speaks to housing across the village and all.
And speaking in one more way in favor of this, we wordsmith, we talked a lot over the many months about what we were doing. We asked many opinions of many different residents. And one of the things we wanted to make clear was that we had a positive feeling about Skokie, that Skokie is and has continued to grow. And as it continues to grow, that we should not dismiss our prior housing. We should revel in our 1950s mid-century modern housing and simultaneously say that as it needs to be fixed up, because it all does, it should be fixed up with flexibility, allowing our residents the most possibilities for how they fix that up. And then one other thing that we said, which does go a little bit to the issue of affordability, we said that we were encouraging the idea of, even though we weren't writing an ordinance for, accessory dwelling units. That if you could, when you are reshaping your mid-century modern Skokie house, all built at the same time, between 50 and 65, that you should be able to, with village help, with village guidance, be able to possibly add units, be it a mother-in-law unit or a rental unit adjacent, either as part of your property or as part of your garage rebuild. So all of those things we took into consideration without writing ordinances for how to do it, just saying we encourage it.
And to add to that, thank you, Commissioner Berman. Within the whole chapter, particularly the 4 main themes, affordability and, more importantly, attainability is woven through each of the four main themes of the chapter.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if this commission, doesn't feel, or feels that it does not need to add anything or send us back to the committee for improvement or anything, I propose that we need to vote on this tonight unless someone comes up with a reason not to. So I would need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Before we do that, is there anybody out in the audience who has a comment or a question on this report for the housing amendment to the comprehensive plan? No one. Thank you, Counselor. Commissioner Manchella?
I make a motion that we adopt the comprehensive plan chapter amendment for submission to the village board.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. Commissioner Gupta? Okay. You call for the vote. Commissioner Manchella?
Aye.
Oh, it's here. I'm sorry. I hit it. I'm sorry, excuse me. That's, this was 13P, right? Yes, okay. I'm sorry, Commissioner Manchella voted aye, and she moved. Commissioner Scott Berman?
Aye.
Commissioner Franklin is absent. Commissioner Gupta?
Aye.
Commissioner Giovanni?
Aye.
Commissioner, vote aye. Okay. Motion passes. Joe, don't leave. I want to talk to you after the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Our next case is case 2024-16P, application for a special use for Guy Post Monastery Child Daycare at 8266 Lincoln Avenue. There's a petitioner here tonight.
Yes.
Please come up. Somebody who,
Or if everybody's gonna testify.
okay. For, who's gonna be the spokesperson?
Well, I'm just gonna introduce and then,
Who's gonna be the spokesperson?
well, who do you want?
Are you all gonna perhaps testify?
Probably a combination of,
Okay, well, could you have all of you stand up? I'll swear you in.
sure.
Gentlemen, raise your right hand. You affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you? Thank you very much. Sir,
Yes.
go ahead, and your name and affiliation with the petitioner.
My name is Glenn Udell, Glenn, last name Udell. I am the attorney for the applicant, RPL Lincoln LLC.
Okay, Counselor, is there notice in order?
Notice is proper and correct.
Thank you very much. Counselor, please go ahead.
So thank you, commissioners. On behalf of the applicant, we're asking you to accept, on behalf of RPL Lincoln LLC, the preliminary application for site plan approval at the real estate commonly known as 8266 North Lincoln Avenue in Skokie. It will be a single-tenant property whereby Guidepost Montessori will operate a daycare facility. We've included with the application a site plan approval, proof of ownership, letter of authorization, statement of facts, full-size plan, copies, site plan to scale, floor plan survey, project narrative, survey, pictures of the existing conditions, and a drop-off narrative for the use of a child daycare not in a residence. And tonight we have the developer of the project architect, and the tenant from Guidepost who will own the daycare facility at the premises. It's my understanding that staff will make a presentation to you. This is, this application, it's my understanding, is backed and approved by staff. And we have everybody here tonight to answer any questions that you may have regarding the facility.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I think I have one question before the staff.
Sure.
And that would be, is Guidepost a chain, a franchise? Is this its one and only location?
You wanna step up? Sure. It's not its only location.
For the record, give us your name, please, and address.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Matt, last name is Knopf, Knopf. Address 1627 North Mozart Street in Chicago, Illinois. So I represent Guidepost Montessori. They're a sister, or not a sister, but a division of the bigger company, which is Higher Ground Education. Just in general, Higher Ground Education does education, operates education facilities across the United States and actually across the pond. So we have locations in China, Spain, Austria. I'm missing one over there. But anyways, across the seas, we have about 130 locations here in the U.S., probably 20 in in Europe. They're all corporately owned, so no franchises. We operate all of them. Paul, who's sitting over here, may speak tonight, the developer. He owns the property currently, but we typically work with development partners who, either purchase the land or own the land, and then they lease it back to us as a tenant.
What attracted you to this site?
This site, I'm not part of the deal team. I'm more of the upfront due diligence entitlement team, but just knowing the neighborhood, being a resident of Chicago all my life, the demographics of the site, the density. I believe there's a wait list in this area is typically all of our criteria that our deal team looks at. There's a number of different factors, but it's all of those, and they put it together, and then we seek out desirable locations.
I thought maybe the elementary school would be a desirable attraction because you have parents that drop their kids off there and have dropped their kids off at your facility.
Yeah, I mean, that's one criteria. I mean, ironically enough, if there's a Whole Foods nearby, that's usually another place where we like to be located. Again, it's just convenient for parents. A lot of parents too, just in general, you all probably are aware, but if you do have daycare, you want either your daycare to be close to home or close to work. So you're either dropping off, when you're close to work or, at home. That is a good point with the elementary school nearby. We are Montessori education, so it's a little bit different, but a lot of our children, and we do offer education from, infant daycare all the way up to high school, depending on the market demand. This school or this location is only for the daycare component, which is basically infant to 6-year-old children. children age through the program, and if there is the need in the market, we will look at elementary, middle school, and stuff like that to expand.
What is your planned capacity for this facility?
This facility has 151 total children of different age ranges. And I think that was written up in the staff report if you want the
I
specifics.
just want to put that on record.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it's in the staff report.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
All right.
Okay, I think we'll bring the staff up then, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Acosta will present the staff report.
We just pull up the site plan.
Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman Luke. I'd like to ask that the staff report be amended to reflect a revision to a special use condition number 1 regarding the payment into the parking fund by the petitioner. Currently, the condition requests the payment to be made prior to the hearing before the Board of Trustees. However, we would like to change that to require payment prior to being issued building permits. Staff would not require payment into the parking fund before approval from the board.
Okay.
And I'd also like to note that the notice and agenda included relief for section 118-212 I-10 to provide a 5-foot minimum walkway at the rear of the building, behind which aisle parking is provided. And the reason why the petitioner is no longer requesting relief is because of a provision in the code that allows a 3-foot walkway if a parking lot abuts an alley. And to begin, I'd like to, this is regarding case 2024-16P for a special use permit for a child daycare not in a residence at 8266 Lincoln in the TX Transit Mixed Use District. The proposed building sits on a 9,000 square foot lot with 75 feet of frontage on Lincoln Avenue. The existing building on site will be torn down, and the new 2-story building will have 8 classrooms, an outdoor rooftop deck with a playground, and an additional playground area located at the rear of the building adjacent to the parking lot, which is accessible via the alleyway off of Laramie Avenue. And the building also includes a kitchen, storage rooms, and staff areas. Staff determined that the required off-street parking for the site would be 23 parking spaces. This reflects the parking requirement for a child daycare not in a residence of 2 spaces for each 1,000 square feet of net floor area. Since relief for the parking requirement is not allowed within mixed-use districts, the petitioner would have to pay a fee in lieu into the parking fund per section 188-218-7E. The fee in lieu is meant to stray developments away from providing less parking than what is required by code in mixed-use zoning districts, but the site does not have enough space to provide the missing 16 parking spaces. However, in addition to the 7 parking spaces in the rear, there is street parking around on Lincoln Avenue with 3 spaces directly in front of the building that may be used for drop-off and pickup zones, and with an additional space being added as the existing driveway will be removed. And there's also 3 90-minute parking spaces on Laramie Avenue between Madison and Lincoln. The petitioner is requesting 4 items of relief with the special use permit. The first item of relief is from section 118-184A, requiring 2 6-foot side yards in the TX mixed use district. The site plan shows 2 new 5-foot concrete walkways along the north and south lot lines leading from the front of the building to the parking lot in the rear. The purpose of this code sections is to provide either no side yard or a minimum 6-foot side yard, is to prevent small setbacks that create dead space between buildings that would collect trash and serve no real purpose. A 5-foot walkway is standard and would serve as an access route to the front of the building, or from the front of the building to the rear of the parking lot. The second item of relief is from section 118 to 12A1, requiring a 24-foot wide drive aisle adjacent to 90-degree parking. The parking lot in the rear of the building is accessible off the 16-foot wide alley with the playground located in the rear and the 3-foot walkway in front of the off-street parking. There's just no room to widen the 6-foot drive aisle to 24 feet, so relief is being requested. The third item of relief is from section 118, 184C6 to have at least 50% of the wall area between 2 and 12 feet above grade be occupied by windows and or entry doors. This is an additional building requirement within retail streets, and the goal of this code section is to provide more welcoming business fronts for businesses on retail streets. Building elevations show an approximate 30% window coverage of the wall area between 2 and 12 feet. Staff feels this relief is justified given the type of use and the additional screening and privacy from the public, would be reasonable for the safety of the children. And the last item of relief is from section 118 233E to provide a parking lot tree within the interior of the parking area, or 1 tree for every 15 parking spaces. Site plans do not show a parking lot tree in the rear, but staff feels relief is justified as the site is already short of space for the total required parking spaces. And in general, the special use permit is consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan and zoning for the site. And staff recommends that the petitioner's request for special use permit for a child daycare not in a residence at 8266 Lincoln be approved with relief from code sections 118-184A, 118-212A1, 118-184C6, and relief from section 118-233E, based on the proposed finding of fact and subject to the recommended and standard special use conditions.
Okay, any questions,
I
staff?
have a question.
I have many questions. I'll start with
Go
one.
ahead.
Could you click through the elevations real quickly so we can get a better vision of this? I think I saw it on my computer, but
I don't think we have the attachment for the building elevation. Yeah.
the reason I was, so we don't have that. Has the Appearance Commission already reviewed this?
No, it still has yet to go to the Appearance Commission, and the reason they're required is because of the construction of the new building.
So it's a 2-story brick building? That's the current intent? Brick on both floors, not drive-it or any other material. All right. These 5-foot passageways on the sides appear to be air shafts, light shafts, emergency exit walkways. Is all of that true, or is that just my guess at why there's 2 5-foot? I would like there to be 5-foot walkways, but I'm hoping there's windows and air and light and emergency exits on those sides. I wouldn't think that you could evacuate 150 kids out just the front or the back. Is that true?
Yeah, that's very important, the evacuation plan. This fire department has looked into this.
Right, yes.
Because there should be proper exit, everything.
And for the state's license, just describe that to us.
Yeah, I'm sure there's exits on along both of the walkways. I'm not sure if that's the primary use for them. However, in the rear, there is a steel porch that is accessible from each floor, that will provide, in case of any emergency exit. But yeah, the 2 walkways on these sides, would serve that purpose as well.
See, this is a 2-story building and 150 kids in this building.
Yes, sir.
You must look into evacuation plan if there is fire, how there is only 17 staff there, okay? How they are going to evacuate 151 kids, that's most important here.
So this wouldn't be before you if the fire department had not reviewed it. So the fire
Not
department's reviewed it, and this would meet all the applicable code for this type of use in the occupancy. I have another question.
Yes, Commissioner Giovanni?
Yeah,
Excuse
so
me.
I was reading in our report about traffic concerns, and with the relief from parking combined with the traffic concerns, what's the plan for like drop off and pickup, and how do we not cause major traffic concerns? And the 3 parking spaces in the front on Lincoln you mentioned, are those dedicated just for this building, or are they public parking for anybody?
So maybe the petitioner has a better answer for this, but the pickup and drop off plan that they submitted with their site plans showed staggered pickup and drop off times. I believe 3-hour periods in the evening and a 2.5-hour period in the morning. And that would help alleviate some of the traffic concerns of the, children getting dropped off and picked up. The 3 parking spaces in the front would be reserved for drop off and pickup. However, there is several off-street or on-street parking available on Lincoln as well.
So you're gonna restrict parking on those 3 spaces just for this facility?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
And then, in your experience, since you've run daycares like this before, is there, even though you have staggered drop off and pickup, is there like a bottleneck time that you've seen in your experience?
Was that you're asking the petitioner or the staff?
I think it's petitioner.
Well, we'll just finish with the staff,
Okay.
then we can.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, well, let's finish with the staff, and then we can bring the petitioner back up. Yes.
How many employees are anticipated to be working in this facility?
The business plan mentioned 17.
And how many spaces, how many parking spaces?
7?
Okay, is there an expectation that this is where the current pub
Yeah.
was?
Mhm,
Okay,
previously.
so is the expectation that the parking lot to the south, and the block south of Village Inn, would be used by staff if there isn't enough parking in the back?
No, staff feels confident that with the combination of the parking in the back and the off-street parking available on Lincoln, as well as the Pace bus route that serves Lincoln as well, that would be sufficient for any parking demand or, travel to the site.
Okay, because the parking on Brown is pretty limited, especially because you've got a restaurant there that has patrons using that, which can happen during the day as well as in the
Yeah, we
evening.
don't want any spillover of parking onto any other business parking or residential streets. However, that staff feels there's sufficient parking on Lincoln and parking in the rear as well.
I should also add, the village has employee parking in the downtown in various lots. And so when, we often hear from employers, oh, where can I park, where can my employees park? We don't want to be a burden to the neighborhood, so we are able to give them passes and encourage them to move to those lots. And so,
And that's on the east side of Lincoln.
That's on Warren Street, or where the parking is.
there's a lot
Yeah.
over here, I'm getting my bearings.
Off Floral?
Yeah, and then there's one closer to the train station. We also believe that a lot of these workers, based on workers in the downtown, will come up via the yellow line and walk over here. It's actually not that long of a walk, as the crow flies, and one might walk, not as you would drive. So we think that there will be some traffic that way as well. So that there is also the provision that the code affords that when people cannot provide all the parking on site, they pay into the fund, which supports our parking amenity.
Okay.
So this is not relief from the responsibility. There is a cost to not providing this, and we receive that to maintain these resources for employees.
So where the employees will be parking? They have 17 employees, and there is 7 spots only here.
Well,
Employee
they
park.
just said that, we're not sure how many of the 17 will be driving, and they anticipate that there'll be plenty of parking on Lincoln Avenue. Some of them will take transportation or other means of getting there, so.
Jose, I think you said that the front spaces, of which there are 3 but possibly 4 because of the removal of a driveway. So the question is, are there 3 or 4? And you said it may be used for drop-off. That was what you said earlier in the discussion. So I think we would like the commitment that the village is signing that for drop-off and pickup only, and therefore they're not parking, and that there's 4 spaces, not 3. Are those commitments that you're willing to make tonight?
There's only 3 reserved for drop-off. With the removal of the driveway that's currently there, they'd be able to add the additional 3rd space.
Well, that's the 3rd. That's
Yes.
the 4th, okay.
Yeah. And I believe we talked this over with the traffic engineering. And I'm not sure if it's signage reserving the.
I think we established the fact that the 3 spaces will be assigned to them or limited to their use.
Well, no, that's different than, Paul, let Jose answer. When you said you discussed with engineering that there's gonna be reserved for the use of the building, does that mean it will be reserved for drop-off and pickup and not for parking?
Yes, only for, it can be used for parking, but it is reserved
Well, if
for
it's, how can it,
drop-off and pickup for specific times, during the drop-off and pickup times that, staff has.
So it's really not gonna be available for staff, because staff will need to be there during drop-off and pickup times.
Right, those are only 3 spaces in front of the building. There's sufficient parking on Lincoln, on both sides for parking of staff.
so then why are we not just calling that pickup and drop-off spaces reserved for that 24/7 and not limiting it to certain hours of the day?
I mean, I could definitely
Well,
look into that.
I think there's, sometimes we overestimate the usage of these parking spots by these drop-off. Having had experience in other municipalities with these drop-off, often the people who come here are people who live in the neighborhood. They walk their child to, and this is, we hear that people want to have access to childcare near where they work or where they live. So you may see people who are in the neighborhood, they drop off, they do that early beginning, and then they go to work. And then people who arrive to work, maybe closer to 9, are dropping their child off. And maybe they park closer to their work. We have a lot of great employers in downtown Skokie. And they drop their child off, maybe they park, and then they drop their child off later in the morning or afterwards. So I think there's no, it's not, these are always tough uses to review, because it's not like Dunkin' Donuts, where we know people are going to order their coffee, and they know they're going to want it, and they're going to drive through, and they're going to leave. This is the behavior of the person. The other part of this that's unique and gives us a greater comfort with this kind of utilization of the land is the fact that you aren't getting new patrons every day. It's not like I'm going to drop my kid off at Guidepost in Skokie today and then go on about my day. It's the same person every day for long periods of time. So if there's a behavior that's amiss, and I'm sure the petitioner can speak to this, if there's a behavior that's amiss, but parking or double parking or loading or something, we will hear about it. They'll hear about it, and they will talk to the family about modifying behavior if there's a problem from a pickup and drop off standpoint. So I don't, in those 3 spaces, making it a 24/7 loading zone, I think we may be only talking about 20-30 minutes in the morning where you might have a little bit of a pain point, if that, but it probably won't even be that bad, because you have such a dispersed period of time. And having had personal experience with dropping off at daycares like this, I never experienced a high influx of jammed cars at pickup and drop off time, because you have such it's not like a school where you have the bell rings at 8 o'clock and everybody has to be in. It's spread over a multi-hour period of time.
Yeah, I want to make a point that Swift Daycare to the south has that same type of parking restriction in front of their facility for drop-off. But I think it's 2 spaces.
The reason I'm asking all the questions is, many years ago, when we approved the Goddard School on Grosse Pointe across from the hospital, there was a serious discussion, and it was a large capacity school, although it is older ages than simply daycare. There was a lot of discussion at that time about the traffic pattern, both the entry, exit, stacking, similar to what we would discuss in a drive-through for fast food. I don't know that their capacity of 150 here is that much less than what we approved at the Goddard School with a stack line of, as I recall, 20 cars stacking around the back of the building as they turn in one direction, stack around, and then come out the other. So there was a lot of conversation about that. Part of that conversation was that it was across from a hospital, and we did not want the stacking on Grosse Pointe to interfere with emergency vehicles in the hospital. So
I don't think they had a problem there.
how many, I'm thinking the capacity of Goddard is pretty big, so is this.
It's big.
And we thought of 20-car stacking there, and we're
I-
thinking of 3-car possible stacking only a few hours a day. I don't see how the two match up in our precedent-setting manner. It seems to me that there will be cars all over the place, not only stacking badly, but possibly driving northbound on Lincoln and crossing the street dangerously also.
Well,
It just doesn't seem like a,
I don't think we have any problems with Swift Daycare with their drop off.
And having had personal experience with
Yes.
Goddard, there's never anybody in that parking lot, so I don't know, the number of cars that come to these establishments
okay.
don't always reflect how many children are, and the other thing, and again, these might be petitioner questions that I'm attempting to answer, that's not that many families, because
Okay.
sometimes people have 2 children that are both being dropped off. People have twins, people have, a infant and a 2-year-old. So it's 2 children, 1 car, 1 household, 1 parent dropping off. So
Okay.
there's, and as the workday has gotten less typical from 9 to 5, you get much less similar drop-off patterns than you might have seen when Goddard was established. And, the flexibility of work from home, so the number of children may not be reflected on a day-to-day basis. Somebody may have to pay to hold a spot there, but maybe Thursdays they work from home, and so the child is, so these numbers are much more in flux than those getting a cup of coffee around the Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, I'm a little reluctant, but I'm going along with it.
Okay, very good.
And I have I've dealt a lot with a lot of entitlements with childcare. So I've heard these things. I worked with Guidepost on a location in a different municipality, and at least another one on a different childcare on another major street. And the concerns are definitely warranted and understandable, but they don't come to pass in the same way. Just because most parents, people will get I don't keep meaning to compare children and coffee, but people will get very aggressive for that morning cup of coffee. But you exercise deep caution when you are dropping off your child
Okay.
in a different way than you would for fighting for that first cup of coffee.
I have another question.
Yes,
So
Commissioner
in-
Giordano?
In the report, it mentions that there's an outdated traffic study. Is there plans to do a new traffic study?
That would be the petitioner question.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be nice.
Was there an answer?
Well, we'll ask that of the petitioner when he comes up.
Okay.
But I thought that the staff would require a traffic
Yeah.
study.
Well, give us this, why don't you talk to the petitioner, I'll answer that question in a second.
Okay, very good. Okay, all right, any other questions of staff? Okay, thank you very much. Before I ask the petitioner to come back up, there was nobody else in the, all right, but, let's see, who would want to come up to represent the petitioner again? We do have some more questions. Counselor, so concerning the traffic study,
We submitted a recent traffic study.
you
to the
have,
village, yes. It's not outdated.
I think the question, the revised traffic study was recommended by the traffic engineering folks because there was a less intense. So the original footprint of the building was different, and then they moved things around to accommodate the setbacks and everything, and so then it reduced the number of square feet, which reduced the parking requirement, which reduced the intensity of the site. So it's a less intense, and I think the comment in here is from the point in which there was a less intense use now being considered.
okay.
I
Any other
have-
questions of petitioner? Yes.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Aren't you expecting the parents are going to walk their children into the building?
Yes.
All right, so it's not just a matter of drop-off?
Please speak into the microphone.
It's not just a matter of drop-off. They have to stop, park, walk their children into the building, get them to their classrooms, and then go back to their car?
Not to the classrooms, but yes, into the, no, you may be correct, yeah, into the classrooms.
I have two grandchildren that I know how the process works because they're not old enough to get to the classroom. What's the youngest age that you accept?
This facility would be infant, so 6 months plus or minus.
Okay, so
2
they're
to
not gonna
6.
be walking in by
No.
themselves anyhow, okay. With staggered drop-off, are you considering the fact that you'll have multiple children from the same household, and staggering won't work for a household where, children are different ages at drop-off?
What do you mean staggered home?
Okay, I have an 18-month-old grandchild and a 4-year-old grandchild, okay? If we're on a staggered schedule to drop children off, it can't be based on age, because those two kids have to go into the building at the same time, because I can't keep
Yeah.
circling the building
Yes.
before I drop them off.
And that would be the case, yeah, you would drop your children off, both age children at the same time.
Okay,
And so let's take a step back, and you can ask as many questions as you want, but, to reinforce some of the things that staff was saying, give you a few, unique things about guidepost, and it actually relates to Montessori education, as well. So I'll reiterate that, the comments made about staff, parents using transit, we fully anticipate that, in this urban, setting. Public parking, on-street parking, garage parking, we anticipate staff using that as well. Siblings, you were talking about siblings, we do take into account when we do, aside from what code is required and what ITE, a traffic engineer, may use as requirements for parking and pickup and drop off, because we have a number of locations, we have our own data and stuff that we look when we analyze the site. And so siblings is taken into account, and I think our percentage is 3 to 5% of families, and not a huge number, but it is a number that you do have siblings. So like it was mentioned, only one car may come instead of 2, or one car instead of 3. So those things do all help, and in a more urban setting like this, we count on some of those things. As far as higher ground, guidepost Montessori, there's a couple unique things too. It was mentioned, but so in the morning and afternoon periods, we have pre-care and aftercare. That pre-care and aftercare is included in our tuition package. So parents are not penalized for, like one day they need to drop their child off early or pick them up late. It's across the board. And so that really gives the parents ultimate flexibility of when they can pick up and drop off their child. So if it changes one day or the next, it's super easy. And so what that does do is it leads to, in the morning, there's a 2.5-hour period of drop-offs. There's afternoon dismissals for the younger children. Some of the children are leaving around noon. And then in the afternoon, pickups start about 2:30 and go all the way to like 6. And so that's like 3.5 hours.
that makes a lot more
And
sense.
so that really disperses out the pickups, and I think, Johanna, you mentioned it, that, I just lost my train of thought, but,
Well, the whole idea of staggering makes a whole lot more sense when you have people able to come in and out over a wide
Yeah.
range of hours.
Right.
That wasn't
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah. And then going to the segue from Johanna was that Montessori education is different as well from typical education, where, like she said, that a bell doesn't ring at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning, and everybody has to be there at the same time. And so, again, that helps, right? And so if a parent wants to drop off their child at 8 o'clock, and our school day does start about 9 o'clock, but again, there's a pre-care, so children can be dropped off earlier. And where it really helps, because drop-off is easier, right? The parent comes, drops off their child, brings them in, leaves. It's a little bit tougher for pickup, because a child has to be matched with a car, or you have to go in and find your child in the school. But because the drop-offs are spread out over such a longer duration, it really, again, it just aids in that period. And again, there's not a bell at 2:30 and everybody is leaving. which leads to those long queue lines you see at a typical education facility, because parents are like, okay, kids are out at 2:30, I better get there at 2:15, or you're out running errands, and so you get there a little bit early, and that's what leads to the long, pickup
Sure.
lines, or the queue lines in the afternoon. And another thing, just with Montessori, it's a minor thing, but again, the education curriculum is, based around the individual child. And so if you drop your child off even after 9 o'clock, child's having a bad morning, you don't get there till 10. The curriculum basically adjusts for that, and the child just basically picks up where they did the day before. The guides that are in the classroom know what the children was doing the day before, or maybe they don't want to do that what they were doing before, but then they do another activity, right? And so it's really, it's interesting, but when you go see a Montessori classroom, it's kind of controlled chaos, because the children are doing what they want to do, but the guides are there, and the guides are directing them and doing all that stuff. And so the type of education also helps. Small factor, but it does also help in the overall pickup and drop off, and, getting good,
Okay.
distribution of that. One last point is just, we do, for every parent, family that's enrolled, there's an orientation package. And in locations like this, where it may be untypical, where we, have 3 pickup and drop off spaces, that will be put in this packet, and it'll be discussed with the parents on how they should pick up and drop off their children. And we do, if there's issues, if there's problems, we will hear it, and we will correct it. We'll correct it with an individual family. If we need to send something out in a newsletter, we can do that. Newsletters, I think, go out monthly at least. So there are things that we can do to police it, because we want it ultimately safe for our families and the children as well. It's our utmost thing, right? And we need pickup and drop off to run smooth, because if it's not, then parents don't want to bring their children to our facilities, and then we're not going to be successful. So,
Operationally, do you have any 150 children facilities with 3 drop-off spaces only?
I'm glad you asked. There are a couple of facilities. One is in Evanston on Davis Street, where it's very similar to this, very similar size school. In the back, we only have 5 parking spaces and 1 ADA space, so a total of 6 there. And in the front, it's all metered parking. And I was trying to look it up as I was sitting over here. We may have some reserved parking like we do here, but I know it's a very similar setup. And then another location.
So no official drop-off on Davis, and yet there's 150 children being dropped off amidst the parking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, there may be some reserved parking spaces in there, and I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to say that if there isn't, but,
Okay.
And then we do have a location downtown in Wicker Park, which is on basically Damon and Milwaukee area, total urban area, and we have no parking, and I think we have 1 or 2 spaces on a side street where the parents pull up. And in some cases, if there's a high demand, staff will help with the loading and unloading of children.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Counselor, I understand, do we have to vote on the separate relief issues?
Yeah,
Okay, we do. Then how many?
not one by one, you package them together.
Okay,
So we're voting for the proposal, including all of those
relief.
4.
The relief would be separate after, if it's approved, then there'd be a second vote.
Just for
Oh,
the
it cannot
four-
be combined into one vote, okay.
Okay, so it'll be 2 separate votes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
If it's granted, then move on to the relief.
okay, so then we have, case 2024-16P, a application for a special use for Guidepost Montessori Daycare at 8266 Lincoln Avenue. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. And with the
Second.
motion, is that connected with all the changes that were requested by the staff?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Mancello, call for the vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Berman.
I was still a little concerned, but aye.
Okay. Commissioner Gupta. Commissioner Giovannahu.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Okay. On the relief, do I have a motion to approve the 4 reliefs requested by,
Do you want to read them again to us, or Jose can read them?
I can read them.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got it.
Relief from section 118-184A to provide 2 5-foot side yards rather than the required 6-foot minimum. Relief from section 118-2128A to provide a 16-foot wide aisle width adjacent to 90-degree parking spaces rather than the required 24-foot. Relief from section 118-184C6 to have less than 50% of the wall area that is between 2 and 12, I think it's supposed to be feet above grade, be occupied by windows and or entry doors. And relief from section 118-233R to provide no parking lot trees rather than the required 1 tree for every 15 parking spaces within the interior of the parking area. And any other relief that may be discovered in review of the case, which won't be applicable, just.
Okay.
So my question before we vote is one of the items of relief, and that's why I was asking the appearance committee question. One of the items talks about square footage of building with windows above or below a certain dimension from the feet from the ground. That all seems to me to be appearance commission issue for us to preempt them by suggesting that it's okay to do something where the appearance commission might decide it's not. Seems to me to be out of place.
I think it has more to do with the wall area, but Johanna, maybe you could speak to it. It says less than 50% of the wall area be occupied by windows and or doors. I don't know, does appearance ever grant relief? I just don't know the
No,
answer
the
to
appearance
that.
commission doesn't require.
I don't think they can grant relief.
No.
But we are weighing in advance to say that we will allow these windows to not be where they would usually be in the village. There would be usually, a wall would have windows on it, and this window issue is something that the appearance commission usually addresses. So they would then be.
So let's say the appearance commission gave a different recommendation, maybe they would travel to, ultimately the board makes the decision about what to do. So it would be a board decision. I mean, you're providing a recommendation, you're not providing approval. So that's one. Two, I believe that when staff raised this issue, part of this has to do with how the space is managed inside. It's not a typical retail space where you'd see a floor-to-ceiling window. Safety-wise, care of children in small areas-wise, it makes sense to have this. So this is not for lack of a desire for aesthetics, or this is a functional aspect of the.
A safety issue?
Yeah. So, so I don't know that it's gonna not meet the plan. The appearance commission may find ways to mitigate the appearance of why, breaking up the facade or other things, but I don't think they're gonna change the window, the fenestration of openings in the building, because this use does not want that.
Is that satisfactory?
Sure.
Okay.
As long as we're not preempting them.
We are
I'm
not.
to step
We are
on
not
their-
preempting the appearance commission.
Okay.
If we are, Mike will let us know.
Or, no.
Do I have a motion to approve the relief?
I move to approve the relief as stated.
Okay. Do I have a
with
second?
With the intent of not preempting the appearance commission.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Giovanni, thank you. Call for the vote. Commissioner Manchella,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta, Commissioner Giovanni,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Okay, that passes. This case still has to go before the Board of Trustees for final approval. They meet on the first and third Monday of the month, and you'll be notified when this case goes before them. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Good luck for the project. Okay. Last case tonight is case 2417, zoning chapter amendment modifications to outdoor dining regulations. Staff, Justin. Okay, sir, go ahead.
Hi there, Justin Malone with the Community Development Department. I'd like to first request the staff report for 2024-17P, modifications to outdoor dining regulations be accepted into the record as written.
So granted.
Thank you. Just a few comments on the report, bring everyone up to speed here. There's a lot of interest in outdoor dining in the last few years especially, and many business owners, have made more efforts to make an outdoor space available for their patrons to enjoy. Currently in the village, outdoor dining is only a permitted use in specific districts, and it is a special use in other commercial districts. So in order to expedite the outdoor dining permitting process, staff is proposing to allow outdoor dining as a permitted use in all commercial and mixed-use zoning districts, as well as implementing an administrative staff level approval process for all outdoor dining permits received. By reviewing the outdoor dining permit requests at an administrative level, staff believes that this will expedite the permitting process so business owners can begin to allow their patrons to enjoy their outdoor spaces quicker. And so staff remains, we do recommend retaining some regulatory controls in the permit approval process to make sure that each site is compatible with the surrounding uses, has adequate seating, trash receptacles, and other design or safety measures. And so also staff is proposing that any outdoor dining applications that do request relief outside of the standard regulations listed within section 118-93 of the code, if they need anything like extended hours, or they want to keep it longer in the season, or they have other safety, or not safety, design kind of requests, we request that they would still be required to receive approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the relief. And so, finally, the proposed modifications would eliminate the need for village board approval for those outdoor dining permits that fall within village standards. And like I said, we just,
So essentially, it will no longer be a special use application.
correct,
But they would still need village board approval?
they would not,
Oh, they only need that if they're looking for an exception.
correct.
No, they would just go to ZBA.
Oh, ZBA, okay. So, we just had 2 cases with special use permits for outdoor dining. What happens to them?
They would retain the permit that they have as is, and they're, apply every year, just like everybody else. And the renewal process is in the spring,
Okay, so there's a renewal process for this permit
annually, yes,
annually,
yes.
where in a special use there wasn't.
If it was approved with the site plan approval, it was not, that they don't need to renew.
Well, that's what I'm asking is, so.
There's an annual fee that they pay, any outdoor dining
Oh, okay.
establishment pays. So
A
this
fee,
is,
But not a permit.
I think
the
we're
fee is-
conflating the two terms. They pay to the village something in order to operate an outdoor dining
Okay.
cafe. So this puts all the zoning districts that have businesses that might do outdoor dining on parity with one another. So, just because I think that whenever this was probably established, we certainly did not had not had a pandemic. I don't even know that there was a deep desire for people to eat outside. I think the preferences have changed so tremendously in the past few years. And that increasingly where this largely sourced from, was our business community and our economic vitality staff saying when we go to talk to people, they see this as a hurdle to doing business in the village of Skokie. So this is a cleanup to support our businesses and help get them open faster. If you recall, last fall or late last summer, the Kawa House had to go through a lengthy process to get their cafe opened, outdoor dining, and it was on property, and it wasn't even on private property. So they had to go through a process to do an outdoor dining area, and it really highlighted the fact that they had just opened, they'd just gone through a permitting process, and it just added to the times that they have to come to Village Hall to get approval to do their business.
Okay.
So there's nothing in this that's making life harder for them, it's only making life easier.
Making life easier, yep.
But the rules, just to reinforce, the rules that we've always had are still the same rules. Trash receptacles, noise levels, outdoor sound, hours of operation, and then the distance. I remember one of our biggest concerns in the past was the amount of distance between the edge of the outdoor dining area and the traffic adjacent or the walking of sidewalks. All of that is within the current code, and we're not changing that at all.
Correct, staff will just continue to administratively approve these as they come in and, make any recommendations or, make sure that everything is in the code as.
Meeting those rules of a surround and giving some room for people to walk adjacent to their cars from a different business adjacent. Okay.
Still you will be preparing a staff report to file it when you approve them.
Can you say again?
A staff report, you will be preparing some kind of a staff report to approve them.
So we have an application on site that indicates that they've
Check, right.
agreed, yeah,
Right.
and we do periodic checks throughout the dining season to make sure that people are in compliance, because sometimes these cafes have a way of,
Encroaching.
yeah,
Keep
and
on
so,
encroaching, right.
and, you know, to each their own, but, and we wanna be supportive of businesses, but we also wanna be supportive of the people who need to walk past businesses. But most of the situations we're speaking of, they're already permitted uses, so CX, TX, those are B3, B4, those are the more walkable business districts. These, the B1, B2, B6, M1, those are not necessarily the walkable pedestrian-oriented ones. So this is really getting to an area where we're probably already seeing a cafe on a private property.
Okay, I have a question. The one restaurant that I'm thinking of in downtown Skokie, they're occupying parking spaces. Are they there by permit?
So that was something that came in during COVID to expand dining areas and it has caught on as a popular option for, I mean, who knew 5 years ago we'd be sitting here saying, gosh, I'd love to eat in a parking space, but, but here we are, it's very popular, and continues to be. So I think, you know, those are the things that we look as we try to think about how Skokie can be more livable and welcoming of businesses, and particularly on side streets where there's not a ton of vehicular traffic at fast pace. I think if we're thinking of the same one, it's off a side street. So, and it creates a nice extra dining oasis outdoor space that increasingly many of the businesses tell us that they really can't not operate without outdoor dining, that people just have come to expect it. So making sure we're able to do that. And as parking, although our code does not allow it, we've found ways with it, working with our legal department to make sure that people can have the spaces that they need to operate.
So following up on Paul's question, though, I'm all in favor of this. Would they then need, not a special use, but would they then need to go to the zoning board of appeals to get that special permitted approval to use a parking space for outdoor dining? When you said.
I don't think so, because the provision says the outdoor dining area must be located on a surface approved by the village manager or designee. The item that speaks to parking is the outdoor dining shall not be located in a required parking space or block a private or public sidewalk. So a required parking space. So if Guidepost wanted to put a outdoor dining cafe, they would have to probably go to the ZBA to seek relief for that outdoor dining cafe. But I'm being a little silly because the thing is up there. But if they're using public parking, that would not be
There would be a
considered.
staff decision.
That's a village manager decision of parking of the surface.
Okay.
Okay, so are we gonna start educating the restaurants to that point? Or what are we gonna?
Well, we gave, if we're speaking of the same one, the village has given them permission to operate there. They
Okay,
did not,
that's fine.
because we dropped those barricades, and, so people cannot just, we have on file the plans for these cafes. It's not just, people set up tables and chairs and,
Well, I'm just a little miffed because, you know, last week, or last meeting, at the board, we approved a special use for dining, then, for outdoor dining, and then, for cafe, we also approved a special use for outdoor dining. So, I guess, I mean, I'd be a little miffed if I was the petitioner and I had to, you know, apply for a special use, and all of a sudden I realized now that I didn't have to do that. Do you want to?
well, I think they're still gonna have to go through a process to review their proposal. So it's,
Okay.
it's
so
not,
that's the
it's just not,
process.
and frankly, I don't know that this would have come to our attention if we hadn't just had two cases that are kind of slam dunk outdoor cafes.
Yeah.
Without, this came to our attention because of those processes,
Okay.
and that, and so I think they're both aware that that they have helped move forward change, and the cost is still the same. There's still a fee associated with operating a cafe. So,
Okay.
we've thought about that too, but you know, there was also just kind of gumming up our local government process with things that we're already gonna approve, that it's good to look time to time to see if codes need to be updated to reflect the current conditions.
I know with the application for a special use, it was an opportunity for the village to go in and have them correct certain items like, you
Absolutely.
know, parking lots, you know, clean up the facility or things like that, and bring more things into compliance. Are we gonna still do that with this permit process?
So to some extent, yes, we'll be able to, because it'll shine a light on properties that people want to operate in. But we've also, over the past year or so, in the post-COVID era, been able to go in and review all of our, particularly fast casual restaurants, things that are the generators of trash and other things, and make sure that those site plans are in conformance with what this body recommended approval to the board and ultimately is on record.
Okay.
So we've gotten, just the nature of the world changing, we've been able to kind of recommit to monitoring some of these things. 'Cause scope creeps, new property managers change over time, they're not aware of things, and it's always an opportunity to educate.
Okay, all right. That's what we-
It's a good idea as long as the staff can handle it.
This makes our lives easier, because we don't have to, there's not a process to come
Yep,
through
right.
the plan commission and the board, and this does, this is good red tape cutting
Yes,
today.
yeah.
Right,
It's a
it'll
very good
streamline
idea,
things. Okay, do we need to vote on this?
Yes, you do.
Okay, I need a motion to approve.
I enthusiastically move that we approve
Well, yeah, Mr.
2024-17
Hot dog salesman.
zoning chapter amendment, modifying the code to make it easier for our applicants
Okay.
to receive outdoor dining permit.
And do I have
Second.
do I have an enthusiastic second? Okay, very good. All right. I've called for the vote. Commissioner Manchella.
An enthusiastic guy.
Yeah, very good. Commissioner Berman.
Aye.
Commissioner Gupa.
Aye.
Commissioner Giovannahu.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, and the motion passes. Okay, anything else before the board?
You need to cancel that June 20th meeting.
I'm sorry?
There's no items for June 20th. So you
Oh,
can cancel the meeting.
yeah,
Nothing's carried over.
there's no, there will be no meeting for June 20th, so you're free to do as you know, free that evening.
There's no meeting July 4th.
There's no,
There's no meeting July 4th.
okay, no meeting July 4th, so then we're looking into what, July 18th?
July 18th.
Okay, very
Yes.
good. One final comment, let's not forget that today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So think about that and kind of put that memory in your prayers tonight. Okay, anything else? Nothing? This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.